The trailing lights of New York City shone brightly one fateful evening in 2023. High above the bustling streets, two men stood on the 40th floor of Blackstone's headquarters, overlooking the empire they had built. Stephen Schwarzman, the firm's legendary founder, and his protege, Jonathan Gray, were strategizing over a vision so audacious it seemed almost mythical, tapping into an $80 trillion global market. Stephen Schwarzman wasn't born into privilege. In 1947, he came into the world in a modest Philadelphia suburb. His parents, Joseph and Arlene, epitomized the American dream. They owned a small linen goods business, worked diligently, and lived comfortably. For them, this was success. But Stephen wasn't satisfied with comfortable. He once suggested expanding his father's business nationwide, only to hear his father's firm response, "I'm happy." That wasn't enough for Stephen. Even as a child, he dreamed bigger. He wanted to rewrite what success meant. Academics became his vehicle. His exceptional grades earned him a spot at Yale, where he majored in social sciences. After graduating with honors, his ambition took him to Harvard Business School. At Harvard, Stephen didn't just excel, he thrived. Founding a student-run investment club that yielded impressive returns, he began to stand out as someone destined for greatness. Graduating in the top 5% of his class, Stephen joined Lehman Brothers in 1972. By 31, he was head of mergers and acquisitions. Yet, even at the pinnacle of Wall Street, he felt disillusioned as internal conflicts and financial instability unraveled the firm. When Lehman was sold to American Express, Schwarzman left to forge his own path. That path led to Blackstone, the firm he co-founded in 1985 with Peter Peterson, another Lehman veteran. At the time, the concept of an alternative investment firm was unconventional. Many scoffed, but Stephen didn't just silence his critics, he crushed their expectations. By 2023, Blackstone was managing over $1 trillion in assets, the most successful private equity firm in the world. Jonathan Gray's journey paralleled Stephen's in many ways, though his beginnings in suburban Chicago carried a different weight. Born to a middle-class family, Jonathan's life took a sharp turn at age 6 when his parents divorced. The once steady ground beneath him crumbled. Young Jonathan responded with grit. At 14, he worked as a busboy in his mother's catering business. He swept floors, cleared tables, and learned the value of persistence. His work ethic began to take shape. Despite his early struggles, Jonathan earned a spot at the University of Pennsylvania in 1988. Initially interested in journalism, he shifted gears upon seeing his Wharton classmates discussing business. With a dual degree in English and economics, he graduated ready to tackle the financial world. Skipping the MBA path, Jonathan joined Blackstone in 1992, an unproven firm at the time. He started at the bottom, creating client pitch books and crunching numbers. But his tenacity and keen eye for opportunity quickly set him apart. In Blackstone's burgeoning real estate division, Jonathan found his calling. By 24, he was instrumental in building what would become one of the most profitable arms of the firm. Under Jonathan's leadership, Blackstone's real estate ventures became legendary. In 2006, Blackstone acquired Equity Office Properties Trust for $39 billion, the largest leveraged buyout in real estate history. Within months, Jonathan oversaw the sale of key assets, yielding a staggering $7 billion profit. In 2007, in the midst of a global financial crisis, Blackstone purchased Hilton Hotels for $26 billion. Jonathan's strategic acumen turned this struggling investment into a $44 billion success story. These moves solidified Jonathan as Stephen's heir apparent. By 2018, he was named president and COO of Blackstone, managing daily operations and preparing for an eventual transition to CEO. As 2023 drew to a close, Stephen Schwarzman and Jonathan Gray found themselves at a pivotal crossroads. Their focus had shifted beyond U.S. borders. While American institutional investors had already funneled 25% of their wealth into private equity, global markets were largely untapped. In countries like Japan, France, Switzerland, and India, a staggering $80 trillion in potential investments awaited. Blackstone's international expansion wasn't just a plan. It was a necessity. The strategy hinged on several key pillars. Geographic expansion. Offices were inaugurated in Frankfurt, Paris, Singapore, and Toronto, signaling Blackstone's intent to dominate global markets. Sectoral focus. High-growth areas like infrastructure, logistics, and e-commerce became top priorities. Innovative investment vehicles. Blackstone's flagship perpetual capital funds, REIT, Real Estate Income Trust, and BCRED, Private Credit Fund, emerged as game changers. These funds offered diversification, income stability, and long-term capital appreciation, tailored to attract risk-averse global investors. European real estate became a prime target. As interest rates climbed, debt-heavy property owners faced turmoil. Jonathan and Stephen saw this as an opportunity to seize valuable assets at discounted prices. With $1 trillion in assets under management as of 2024, Blackstone set its sights on doubling that figure. This wasn't just ambition, it was execution. Jonathan Gray spearheaded partnerships with international investors, offering bespoke solutions that balanced risk and reward. But this mission was more than financial. For Stephen, it was legacy building. For Jonathan, it proved that Blackstone's dominance could endure for decades. Together, they embodied a relentless pursuit of global influence. In September 2023, Stephen Schwarzman was in Frankfurt, opening a new office. At the same time, Jonathan Gray was in Singapore, deep in talks about a billion-dollar project. Their jet setting reflected their firm's ambitions. One evening, back in New York, they met again. Stephen looked at Jonathan, a man who had evolved from mentee to partner, and said, "You're the best investment I ever made." Jonathan smiled, his mind already racing ahead. "So, what's next?" "Tokyo, Seoul, Mumbai," Stephen replied. "It'll be a long trip." "How much do you think we'll raise this time?" "An extra billion or two, maybe more," Stephen said. Jonathan nodded. "Good, because 80 trillion is still out there, waiting for us." As their jet roared into the night, the skyline below faded into darkness. For Stephen Schwarzman and Jonathan Gray, the horizon wasn't just a limit, it was an invitation to conquer.